of interest to you, perhaps I might motivate you to try some different things. There is a book that is the Bible for trick photography and things alike that I would like to recommend to you. It's an online book. It's not a paperback. And at the end of the presentation, I will show you the book. And I would recommend that if you are interested in this subject, you look at it, because you're going to learn a lot of techniques and also accessories that you can use in photography. Trick photography is basically a picture taken using a trick to cause an initial impression. You look at the picture and say, oh, what is this? And then after a minute or so, you realize how that it was done. It's just to get the initial impact. I've done very elemental tricks. There's nothing major about it. For instance, something like this, pouring water during Hurricane Maria. If you look at this picture, of course, it looks strange, but the main element here to trick you is the glass. Oops, I made a boo-boo. The glass. This is what creates the illusion. Why is that? It's because you assume that the glass is down, and that fools you. This is the actual picture. And I was holding the glass with my hand over the image just to fool you. This is basically what the trick is all about. This leads you to believe that this is down when in fact it's not. Something similar applies to this picture. This is a girl reading in my waiting area in the office. And this is the element that tricks you. This is the element that leads you to believe that this is a wall, when in fact it is not a wall, it is just a floor. If it weren't for this, perhaps you would not be inclined to believe that this is a wall. But this is the way the picture was taken. And again, this is what leads you to believe that this is a wall. And you can see these are very elemental tricks, nothing major about it. Levitation is another technique in which you use some trickery. This is what allows you to have this Buddhist monk levitating between his peers, or this girl in deep meditation. This girl taking off from a landing strip. This girl driving a truck from outside the cabin. All these pictures have a common denominator. There is a structure underneath that you make disappear in a second shot. All these pictures have two shots. You have to place your camera on a tripod because you have to take identical pictures of the surroundings. The first picture has this supporting structure. And for the second picture, you remove everything. Remove the girl, remove the table, just to recover what's behind the table. And then in Photoshop, you make layers and you layer mask and you erase the structure. All the pictures I show you have the same mechanism. One thing that you had to do is you had to improvise some sort of shadow to make it more believable, for instance. And sometimes the shadow is not that easy because there's a shadow of the structure as well. Here there was a bench that had to make this appear and make it match with the shadow. The same applies to this girl. Multiple images. This is a very simple technique that is basically of interest or funny for lay people. It's nothing to it. But when you have children, you love to have pictures like this. It's also taken with the tripod, and you put the girl in the first position, and then you take a second picture with the girl in another position, and so forth. in this setting, you had to be careful not to overlap the images. You had to remember where the person was so as to not overlap, because that would destroy the image. And then as the same mechanism in you make layers, and with the layer mask you make the ones that you took second, third, and fourth come through the original picture. This is a cute use of the same technique. This girl used to be my nurse. She was a very good actress, as you can see. And this is 5 different pictures in which she represents different soldiers. Orbs. This is a thing that I learned from the book. This is an orb. It's an orb actually in a cemetery done at night. How this is done is basically you get a small LED light, the type that come with a keychain. You put a string to it of the length that barely reaches the floor, doesn't touch the floor, but is very, very close to the floor. You dress in dark clothing because you're going to be in the scene, you're going to be turning around, and you start spinning this and moving in circle around. I advise you to put something on the floor like a coin so that every single circle goes through that same point to have a good orb. Otherwise, it would be a disaster. You see, in this picture, there was not a good coincidence, and you have this double image. This is a good orb. This is taking the shores of West Point Lake. These pictures were taken at night. The light you see is because of the 30-second exposure, but this was pitch dark when you started the orb. In the town where I lived, there was this railroad bridge crossing the Chattahoochee. And I had the bad idea that I wanted to do an orb in the bridge. So I came here one night with my wife. She stood where I am right now taking the picture with a tripod, and I walked into the bridge to do the orb. The bridge has lies, and there's separation between the lies to the point that you see the water. When you're walking there, you see in between the lies, you see the water of the river. And I began to do my orb there, and I was just about finishing it when a train comes. There's a curve, so the train suddenly appears in scene, and it was very bad. My wife had to rush out of the tracks, and I had to walk extremely carefully, because if I put my foot through the hole in between the lies, I would have a broken leg and then an amputated leg. So it's not a good idea to do this, but it's in my memories. This picture, you can realize easily that an orb cannot be made on top of the hand of the girl. This orb was done elsewhere and then reduced and put in here. Light was made to illuminate the model as to make it believable that it was coming from the orb. This is not strictly an orb. This is a vase of dark crystal. And I began with the same story, with a small light attached to a string. I began to go around and at the same time come up. And I obtained this pattern with a reflection in the glass of the lines. Painting with light is another interesting technique that you can try with ease. It basically consists of using a source of light to paint, like if it were a brush, to paint whatever subject you have. You have to realize that the image is going to depend on your light. So if you make a brush, you brush with a flashlight once here and come here afterwards and then return here, you're going to have a striking difference in the amount of light in the image. So you got to be very careful as how to distribute the light and making sure you don't pass 2 or 3 times through the same spot. I would advise you to try this with still lifes because the exposure is always very long in the range of 30 seconds, and the human being is not very suitable for that situation. As far as painting with light is concerned, I would also say that right now most of the flashlights have an LED light. The LED light is not very attractive. It's kind of white bluish. It's better to have an incandescent light that casts some yellowish, perhaps even orangish light that make much more appealing. This is a picture that I took of a girl with this technique. It's actually my best picture taken with this technique. As I said before, it is very difficult to do this with a human being because of the long exposure. In this particular case, what you do is do an initial quick flash over the face and don't return to the face, because if you return to the face, you're going to have a double image or triple image. And you start off by going central and advancing slowly to the periphery to distribute the light in this fashion. This was another experiment. This is a single picture. It's one frame. The girl was in total darkness. The camera was pre-focused in the area. And then I had a flashlight. She had a candle on her. I went there, I did a quick brush up and down, then covered the light. She stepped, did the same thing here. She covered the light, and the same thing here, and so forth until I ran out of time. This is a 30-second exposure. Initially, where we didn't realize is that the candle, instead of having this type of image, would be a continuous light because it was not covered between the images. So we had to go back and have the girl cover the light in between steps. As I would paint her with light, I would cover the flashlight, she would cover the candle, and then give a step, and we repeat it 6 times. All these things include a lot of trial and error until you get something that approaches what you want to do. This is also an image painted with light. I just painted the contour of the model and then added this image. One thing that you can do is draw with a flashlight. You do that by, instead of aiming the flashlight at the model, you aim the flashlight at the camera and you draw with the flashlight. You can do something like this. Initially, I tried it just by freehand, and it's really impossible to do it that way because you're drawing in the air in total darkness. You have no idea where you went before, and so you will never be able to finish the line where you started. And then, thinking about how to solve that problem, I decided to put a transparent acrylic here, like a glass, and then draw on the acrylic. I could even draw the lines in the acrylic beforehand and then follow them with a flashlight to obtain this type of image. Or see, this is a little problem here, the type I was talking. And then once you do these drawings, you can include them in a composite picture with a regular photo. This includes 3 different pictures. The sun was done with the flashlight and the acrylic. The sofa was done the same way, and then the girl was sat on a chair that it was made to disappear afterwards, and combined all 3 in this picture. This is a Christmas tree done with a flashlight. Projection images. This is something that I really feel proud about because I pretty much developed my own technique. This started off when I saw a picture once, I don't remember where. It was not a very good picture. It was a black and white, kind of yellowish, that had been taken by a Filipino photographer, in which there was a torso of a naked woman with 2 targets in each breast that he was projecting on the breast. I said, so you can project things. That gave me an idea, and I began working on that. I began working to get patterns to project. I went to flower gardens, took pictures of them. This is a graffiti in a wall in Brazil. I even went to carpet stores to get some patterns, Islamic patterns like this, geometric. This is another graffiti, I don't know where I got it from, in a wall. And then I began projecting this on the models. This is the image. And I got this type of image. How this is done? The model is placed against a black background, not reflected. I have the model in front of it, standing about a couple of feet, 2-3 feet, perhaps even more sometimes, because sometimes you get a leakage of the pattern into the background. Then you put a projector in front of the model and the camera and a tripod behind the projector. In other words, the projector is between the camera and the model. And the only source of light is the projection. And then I began to think about the possibility of not covering the model's face. And then I designed this situation. This is a graffiti in a wall, and I made an oval skin color in the area where the face would be. Same here. This is a carpet pattern. This is a painting from a museum. These are flower beds. And then I did some geometrical forms in Photoshop as well. And the way they look, they began to look like this. You have perhaps seen body painting. There are some artists that paint the girl's body, and she looks like she's dressed up when she's totally naked, but just painted with the pattern. This is similar. The only difference is that I don't have the mess of the painting, and I can change the pattern within 3 seconds. So to me, it's more advantageous than painting. Sparks. You probably have seen some of this. This is something I learned with the book, the Bible I was talking about. You need a whisk. You need steel wool. The finer the better. There's one that looks almost like cotton. And to my surprise, this is combustible. This lights up. If you put a match to it or a lighter, this will actually burn. So you pack this tightly inside the whisk, put a string, and you start spinning it. And if you spin it for a while, you're going to have a shower of sparks. This is a 30-second exposure. I did it in a lake. I walked into the water because I was nervous about the showering sparks everywhere. And after the shot, you can see the image of your body here in the center, so you erase that in Photoshop. You can do this also in a closed area, and it's very interesting to see how the sparks bounce all over. Here I did not erase my image. You got to be careful. First of all, with your hair, you got to have your hair covered. You don't want sparks in your hair. You do not want to wear any synthetic materials that could light up. And you got to be in a place where sparks are not a problem. I saw a picture that I don't have that was extremely good, of a silhouette of a guy with a umbrella that was in a setting like this, and it was in black and white, so the sparks would bounce like this. Oops. And it was a very, very, very nice picture. This is the door to hell. I found a big tube, the ones I use under the roads to let the stream pass, and I got in and began playing around with the sparks there. There's not much more to it. This is something that I learned from the book. I had no idea that this existed. The Electromedicine wire is a piece of wire that is sold in lengths of about 2 to 3 feet, that is covered with phosphorus, some phosphoric component that lights up with electricity. The wire comes connected to a small plastic box for 2 AA batteries, and when you turn it on, the wire luminesces. It becomes bright in whichever color you have bought. I knew greens, reds, and blues. What do you do with it? Well, if you have a long exposure, all these pictures are long exposure pictures, and you shake it, you obtain something like this. What you do with this, well, you can try to do things. I put a girl there with a mask covered in blue with the blue waves. This one coming out of hell. This is a Electromedicine wire. And you can add this to a landscape.
Enrique, I recall a picture of you.
This is the book that I was telling you about. This book is excellent. It is not expensive, and I would strongly advise you to get it and take a look. You're going to learn a lot of things. This is all I have to say about trick photography or something like that. Thank you for allowing me to present this.
I will say that, some of the images that you showed, most of the images you showed were really spectacular. And I don't know if using the word trick is appropriate. I mean, they're very beautiful abstracts, and they're very beautiful, surreal pictures.
Well, I don't have enough trick pictures to make a 45-minute conference. That's why I decided to go over over the rest with these other pictures, other experiments that I tried in my life.
It was very enjoyable. When you did the sparks, so you were rotating the whisk around? Is that what is happening?
Yes, yes. As I said, the whisk is with a string. You start spinning it around, and that's all you have to do. Sparks fly everywhere.
You wear goggles and cover your body?
No, I wore a hat. And that was it? You have long sleeves, of course.
Was it a combustible hat?
I'm sorry?
Was it a combustible hat?
No, I mean the sparks are very small. Probably if they fall on your skin, they will not burn you. But still, as a precaution. Right. And I felt very comfortable doing it inside a lake.
For the drawing with light, not the light painting, but the drawing with light, Olympus cameras have a little ability that it really works well with that, which is called live view, which is where it does an exposure, and then the next exposure is only collecting information that's new since the previous. So you would not have to have quite as long an exposure, and you can draw that. There is an artist who uses Olympus cameras to do these things, and it makes unbelievable images. I'll see if I can find out who that was.
I'm going to tell you, in this book, you're going to see very sophisticated images on these techniques that I have told you. Yeah. I am in the ABC part of the book, but this guy is excellent.
I didn't know of this book.
I thought these were very sophisticated. I'm sure there's probably questions in people's minds, like how can I do something? How can I use some of this information?
This presentation was really awesome. I mean,
yes.
I thought it was really fabulous, Enrique. Thank you.
It was really new information.
Yeah. Thank you, Enrique.
Yes, thank you. It's good to see you again, Enrique.
Yeah. If you guys send me the links to the meetings, well, I will be on your meetings. I have not been receiving them.
I don't know why. Because you're on the mailing list.
I know.
So
when I complained that you sent something and I did receive that.
Did you receive the ones I sent directly to you?
Yes.
Okay. So the problem is when in MailChimp, in reading that, the big master list, I'll check it.
Okay.
Hey.
Enrique, this is Mark. That was great. I really appreciate it. And we really miss you because for those who don't know Enrique, he would drive all the way from West Point, like Ruth said, but it was always worth it because he went home with all the ribbons.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's true. It was true. But he took me on a photo shoot right before I guess you moved to Puerto Rico, because I came to the club, not long before that, and I learned more during that couple of hours I was with Enrique than I think I have in any 2 hours. So, really well appreciated.
There was a small group. Yeah. Who just before COVID visited Enrique in Puerto Rico.
Yes. Yeah. Great trip. Great trip.
I gathered a model there, and we had a blast.
We had a great time. It was really worthwhile. We need to do it again.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
A post-COVID trip.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't have the model. I will have to look for one.
We'll find her.
The model actually went to the States. She's in the States now.
Enrique, my most successful picture was done with painting with light with flash, where I was photographing a very large structure. It was a 5-story tall incinerator that burned the solid mass of waste at a wastewater treatment plant. So after the wet sludge was run through the spinning device that gets the water out of it, it went on a conveyor belt and dropped into the top of this 5-story tall, 5-level incinerator. And inside the incinerator was a slow rotating core which had arms on it and like hands on the arms at different angles. And then there were holes in the floor between the top one and the next one, and so on, so that the burning solid waste would be stirred and it would fall through holes in the floor and fall down to the next level. And on the next level, the blades on this rotating arm faced the other direction. So it would stir this burning mass of stuff inward on one layer and outward on another layer. And when it got all the way in, it would fall through holes to the next layer. Or when it got all the way out, it would fall through to the next layer. And by the time it had gone through 5 layers of burning, it was a dry, sterile ash. And then it went through baghouse filters and then went through a hopper and through a chute and into a dump truck. And
where does the photography come in?
Anyway, they would take the dump truck out to a place and bury this burned ash from the incinerator at the wastewater treatment plant. And anyway, it was my most successful image.
Why was it successful in terms of pulling it off or sales?
And, well, the client paid me $1,000 more than I billed him. That was part of it. It took an assistant, and it took us about 2.5 hours to do the exposures. There were more than 100 flash exposures. The flashes were on light stands and within a few feet of the parts of this incinerator on the different levels. And I had walkie-talkies and radio slaves. Radio slave is a studio device for firing electronic flash in synchronization with your shutter. I didn't want to leave the shutter open for that whole time because I knew it was going to take about an hour to do the whole exposure. Because if I did that, the safety lights and work lights on this 5-level machine would blow out and ruin everything. So I did it synchro flash at 100th of a second, radio slave to trip the flash, and then optical slaves from one flash to another. I had, I think, 3 powerful portable flashes, and I was up on the machine placing the flashes where they would light the parts that I wanted to illuminate on the subject, but the flashes couldn't be seen from the camera. And then I would go get where the camera couldn't see me either. And on the radio, I would tell my assistant who was on the camera, give me 2 pops. And with a self-cocking shutter so that he could squeeze the release without moving the camera.
So
he would do 2 pops, allowing about 10 seconds between them for the flashes to recharge. And 2 pops gained 1 f-stop of depth of field. But anyway,
we're losing you on it. We're already overwhelmed.
Okay, sorry, don't have the picture to show you. But
well, that's what we want to see because it's a picture of a whole load of, well, you know the word, right?
Yeah.
Now, what year was that?
That was about. It's when I had my studio going, so it must have been about late 90s, mid 90s, 95, 96.
So 30 years after that, how would you do it differently?
Well, with digital camera, I'd have to think about that because this was about 100 flashes, all recorded on a single sheet of 4 by 5 inch color transparency film.
I have a question for Enrique. Which is, what are you doing there in Puerto Rico photography-wise other than shooting pictures? Are you selling your pictures commercially or thinking about a book or belong to a club? Or
nothing further from what I'm doing right now is playing golf and pickleball. No, I feel bad about it because I haven't really been doing much photography. My photography has been all these experiments. I sort of lost the push for that, and my photography is mostly right now traveling photography. I do travel quite a bit, and I shoot when I travel.
You're still traveling.
I'm sorry.
You're still traveling.
Oh yeah, a lot.
During COVID.
I know. And
Where?
You know what? When I went? Yeah, well, in the last 4 months, we went to Italy, Spain, Malta, Brazil, Mexico, and Florida. And I am going to Brazil again, May, to fish in the Amazon River. How's that?
Well, just extend an invitation and we'll join you.
Yeah.
And by the way, for those who want to do another Puerto Rican trip, just to show you how interesting it was last time, the last thing I remember was we had and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, we had a ping pong tournament that drew blood. The last thing I remember is Enrique sewing up Jim's head. Now, I do remember that correctly, don't I, Jim?
That doesn't sound good.
About it.
that sounds like Al was the instigator there.
Jim, you're on mute. You're on mute. You're muted, Jim.
Yeah, that wasn't my fault that my head started bleeding. That was the concrete wall's fault.
Okay.
But my paddle did make contact with the ball. I don't know if it hit the table or not, but
it did not.
Yeah. Well, that's Al's part of the story. So.
I had forgotten about that part. Yeah.
That's the only contribution I have here after that. So.
And thinking about it, Enrique, I was probably faking it, but I probably had a concussion. I knew I had 2 doctors there, and they were looking at me, with pretty serious faces, and said, "Well, I don't have time to spend in the hospital. We got to go take pictures with Enrique the next day." So,
I just want to let you all know what happens on our photo trips.
Yeah, it sounds dangerous.
Yes,
I remember a vasovagal response when I was there.
Golly, we should probably move on now because we have 11 pictures, and I know Ruth is going to review those for us.
So on to Chicago.
Yeah, but thank you again, Enrique. I really, really appreciate your taking the time to put that together for us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very nice
presentation. Thank you, Enrique.
Yeah, gonna get that book.
All right.
Well, I guess I'm moderating this, and I'm taking my example from.
Rue, you just froze.
What happened?
Transmission froze.
Oh, yeah, that happened with her just earlier, just not on our practice, but just now.
Well, it must be pretty easy to get frozen in Chicago.
Hey, Rue, if you can hear us, wave.
Oh.
She's frozen.
She said it was 28 degrees and snowing.
Yeah, but she was working fine before. I mean,
I just got the thing did you all see internet connections unstable?
No.
Mine seems to be okay.
You froze.
You see me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
You're good.
So good? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but.
Can you see the pictures?
Right.
Yes.
I see your screen. I don't see, you don't have each image. I don't.
We see thumbnails.
You're after the storm. I see thumbnails. I see thumbnails.
Yeah, I was going to make the full screen, but let's see.
Sounds good.
And
Like
Rue, just to let you know, we did not hear your introduction, so at all.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yes.
basically what I said is that I'm following Mark's wonderful example of how to comment on these, which is basically showing the image and everybody gets a chance to comment on them, and I just kind of moderate here. So.
You're still smoking pot on here. That's hilarious.
What?
Okay. All right. So everybody can see this picture now, right?
No thumbnail.
No, we're seeing all of them.
It's frozen on my screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Start.
There's 11 photos showing.
Yes. Okay, let's try this again. What about now? No?
Nope.
No.
You're just seeing that. Okay. All right. Let's see. Go back to this.
Don't you just click on it? Click on
Yeah.
your.
That's what I did before. Yeah. What we did when we practiced earlier. I just did this. Now what happened?
Double
Would you
click on one of the
double-click?
images.
Try double-clicking it.
You're seeing that the whole thumbnail, you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, wait. When I did this earlier,
All
double
right,
click.
there it is.
It's working now?
Yep. We can
Not
see
for
them
me.
all now.
You can see
Yes.
them all, yes, but I want to put them up individually, which is what I did when I was working with Rue earlier.
Do
Today.
a double click.
I did a double click, but you're telling me
Oh
it's
my.
not. It's not.
It's frozen again.
Can you go to share and just do slideshow or something?
Yeah, I'm sharing.
Right, you're in your share right now.
I just made you a co-host. I don't know if that makes any difference.
Okay, let's start again. Because it certainly did work
Yeah,
earlier.
because that's the thing. Daryl was not on when we tried this. Elsie, it's all his.
No,
fault.
he wasn't.
Uh-oh.
Can you open?
Is that better?
No.
Can you open this folder in Bridge and then do slideshow?
I don't use Bridge. Now we did this at 7:00 and it was fine. That's. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only thing that's open right now is Zoom, and of course.
Elsie, what if you close this window and reopen it? See if that helps.
Okay, let's see.
Like I have some magic solution here. I'm always the one to provide the IT support for our club meetings.
Let me see something. I think there's too many images open for some reason. Every time I opened it.
Oh. Well, close this and see what else you've got.
So you're looking at, now tell me what you see now. You see all the images and you see my Explorer folder,
Correct.
right?
Your cursor is moving, highlighting images.
Okay.
But it's still frozen.
It's frozen.
Well,
I don't know that it's frozen, but
yeah, it's
It's
just
not frozen.
it's not frozen. It's just it's thumbnails.
Okay.
Try a right click on one and see what it gives you as an option.
Okay.
Try
What was
open.
it? We were like, yeah, it doesn't give me that. Oh, yeah.
Try open. Did you left click on open?
Yeah, I did.
Nothing.
You're not seeing anything?
No
You
change.
see all the pictures.
When
Well,
you
I
do
said
that,
share
it's
your
gonna
desktop, I guess.
open in another window, and
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Um,
know what's going on. Elsie, if you would stop sharing and share again, but you want to share your entire computer, not just the whatever that window was.
Now we see Chris.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see something.
Exactly.
And now we see Mark.
I think, that is correct. I think exactly what Chris is saying is
All right.
reshare.
All right.
that
I
whole
stopped
screen.
sharing.
Now share again, and then read to me what the top left option is for sharing your screen.
Actually, it says one participant can share at a time.
Yeah, that's you.
So just hit that one.
Click share screen, and then it should give you a dialog box with several options.
Do you
It
see?
looks
you
like
see
a bunch
screen
of
one,
thumbnails.
Screen two?
I'm not getting
Yeah.
it.
Well, you were on screen one.
Well, Daryl, you're not
No, you're
clicking on share screen, are you?
Yeah, well, I'm not activating anything.
Well, yeah, don't. I think it might be affecting her because it said only one person can do it at a time.
Maybe that's the problem.
So everybody leave share screen alone. There you go, Elsie.
Okay.
All right, now we see Zoom ditch the 40-minute limit.
I don't know where that came from. That's
just jump back over to the screen you were at before. Stay in.
No,
keep sharing your screen. Just jump over to the other window.
Okay.
Is this about the right time?
Hey, folks.
You can minimize this.
Wait a minute. I think I have the answer. It says here I'm viewing Don Stevens' screen. So, Don, can you stop sharing your screen?
Don's talking and he's muted.
Don is sharing his screen right now, so that's I think that's what's interfering. So get Don to stop.
Don, go down and click the green button that says "Share." Stop sharing screen. Down to the bottom center, big green, way bottom of the monitor. All right, who's the host? Kick Don out.
Daryl should be the host.
I'm the host.
Yeah, you need to not allow Don to share screen right now.
Just remove him.
Yeah.
Don, do you hear us? Turn on your mic. You're muted.
Okay. I'm sorry. I clicked a couple of things that caused this to happen.
Elsie, you're good. Everybody, leave it alone.
Start again. Okay. I'm going to hit share screen.
And the top left option, I think, is an option to share your computer or whatever.
It should show you various.
You don't want to share just the one.
No, I don't.
One application like Safari. You want to share your desktop.
I was trying to share my desktop, which
I just click multiples can share.
Oh, wait, okay.
All right, well, leave it alone, Don.
Yeah, leave it alone, Daryl, too, because I just hit. Am I sharing? I'm not sharing now, I don't think, at all.
That was Daryl, not Don, that spoke.
So nobody's sharing right now, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm seeing Jim now.
Oh, that will happen all depending on who's talking.
All right, now try it again.
Okay, is it working now?
Now open that picture.
It is open.
Okay, you're still sharing just that one screen. You're not sharing your whole desktop.
Are you seeing the pictures as I advance them?
No. So go ahead and stop sharing screen. I want you to stop sharing screen, share again, and then read to me the options that you see. And if everybody could hold your breath for a second.
I just see one participant share at a time, multiple participants at a time, and then advanced sharing.
To close that dialog box, I just want you to hit the share screen button.
I did. And then I see one that says screen, which has a picture of you, Chris, on it. Whiteboard, iPhone pad, things that are not relevant to me. And then the one with the white azalea vase, which is what I was showing. And then that's my folder.
Yeah, don't do that because that means you'll only get to see the folder.
Okay.
You can't jump between different, screens. So read to me some of those. So does it look like a bunch of thumbnails, right?
Yeah, it's a screen, whiteboard, iPhone pad.
Screen. Share your screen.
Okay, that has you on there. So
That's okay. Just click it. And now we see
it.
Yay!
There it is.
Thank you, Chris.
Chris,
I'll send
you did it again.
Yep. Denise, I'm sending you a bill.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go.
Elsie, can you start at the top? Because my notes are all at the with your first image there.
Okay, that's the first image.
Yeah, so again, Elsie's going to keep a little track of time so we don't overshoot our desired time.
It's all right. It's 8:30. We'll shoot for like 9:15 maybe. Okay.
So this is After the Storm by Elsie. Does anybody have any comments?
Yeah, this is just taken on the vineyard after one of those big storms last year. Windy, everything's flying everywhere. I can't remember if I used a tripod or not. And I'd just be interested in any feedback on composition and lighting are a big issue.
I find it very nice.
Like everything except the bird double, where there are two birds overlapping.
Actually, it's because he's moving. Probably it's only one bird, but yeah, it's probably
it's the other wing.
Yeah.
There's only one bird.
I like the bird.
Yeah.
The bird makes
I had
it.
a bird in or bird out. I couldn't figure it. I tried it with bird out, and I figured it just needed something.
Bird helps.
You know, on many pictures, having the horizon dead center is a no-no, but in this picture, it really works well.
Oh.
I agree because of the bird. Yeah.
Right.
Because of the bird.
And the wave is a fantastic wave.
Yeah.
The foreground interest of the rocks on the left is useful.
Okay.
You see what you want.
Okay, so that's helpful. Yeah, I was focusing on the waves. I was trying to get that. It took a lot of pictures to get a strong wave and try to capture movement.
It's a single shot and then cropped?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Elsie, I really like it. This is Mark. I don't know if you want to do this or not, but I'd throw a couple more birds in there. I don't know if you do that sort of thing or not. That breaks Daryl's inserting images in there, but boy, if you had a trio of birds that kind of spaced just right, that'd be so good.
Okay, I can try, but I wanted to move the bird down a little bit, but what I found is because of the lighting of the clouds, it made it artifacts. So I just had to leave him where he was.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move on.
I had a comment. One of the things is I don't know if you tried looking at this in black and white.
No, I
that might add a feeling of mystery to it a little bit, and kind of darken the sky.
Okay.
I think black and white's a good idea.
It is an idea.
I agree with Rue on that. Try it in black and white, but I love the composition. The eye tends to go from the bird to the kind of brownish seaweed on the beach, and then back to the rocks, and then back around again. It kind of makes you look at the whole thing over and over again. So I think it's a real successful composition, and it has plenty of contrast in the image, so it might even work better as a black and white. Just something to try.
No, I like it in color, and I'll tell you why, because the colors are very restful.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole image is very restful. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I am on a beach and I'm feeling this. I really do. I'm feeling this where I am in this picture. And I'm standing right there and I'm feeling really, really composed and happy and relaxed. And I think those colors kind of complement that feeling.
Yeah.
I'm
Do
sorry.
we need to go to the next image?
Yeah, we do. I didn't want to start with mine because I didn't think that would be right, but that's why I started at the end. But they're just arbitrarily in there. So.
But Butterfly Girl in Infrared by Don Stevens.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a quick question, Elsie?
Yes.
Was that a panorama where you stitched things together, or was that just cropped?
It's just cropped to be. I forgot what I used. It's a 3-to-1 ratio somehow.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay, Don, do you want to talk about your image a little quickly?
He may be still cut off.
Oh.
Oh.
No, I never cut him off.
He'll come back. We can come back. Don,
are you there? Or can you?
Okay, I have a camera that I
there you go.
modified to shoot infrared only. It's a Nikon color digital camera, but after the modification, it only shoots infrared. I thought infrared might be interesting here because of the variety of bright flowers and foliage that you can expect in infrared. The figure is a bronze statue.
Oh.
It's Gibbs Gardens, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Infrared helps separation between the statue of the girl and the background, I think.
It does. Yep.
I believe, Don, I believe that it lacks a little contrast, and I would add perhaps a little light also to the whites. It's kind of a grayish.
I adjusted the highlights because the whites blended together. The flowers are 2 or 3 different kinds of flowers of 2 or 3 different brightnesses, and they all were coming out as just white and no separation between the blooms.
It almost gives it an antique feeling.
Well, I adjusted to make the flowers separate from each other.
One thing, because I've been doing some infrared, is you can convert them to black and white, and often that works quite well. And you can then fool around with contrast better.
Well, I can adjust the contrast. I can make the girl darker, or maybe the trees darker. It could be done.
I still think they lack light. I think it needs the whites need to be a little whiter. They're gray now.
Okay. Well, I intentionally adjusted them so that they would separate a little bit, one flower from another.
It does look like, yeah.
I think it would make a great greeting card.
It looks like a greeting card. It does.
Yeah, it's like an illustration, basically, because you used that statue, which I thought, I didn't know it was a statue, but it looks very fantasy, and I can see it making a nice greeting card.
Well, this is at Gibbs Gardens where they have a whole lot of statues.
Yeah.
Is this a composite? Did you add the girl?
No. That's the way it looks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're opening March 4th. They're delayed because the daffodils aren't blooming well.
Is she on a pond?
Hmm?
Is she on a pond?
It looks that way.
No, she's on a pedestal.
On a pedestal.
It's on the grass.
She and some of the flowers are on a raised platform of some sort.
Oh.
It looks like a stump.
I see. Okay.
You know, the picture is so lovely. Why did you make it elliptical and as opposed to rectangular?
I thought it was a way to get her into an interesting thirds position.
I think it worked really well compositionally by doing that oval. Like I said, it just looks like it'd make a great greeting card and kind of a fantasy type of illustration. It looks like it was drawn pretty much.
I entered this in the competition as a rectangular picture, and the judge didn't like it.
No. I do agree with Enrique. You can get a little
bad, that's bad on the judge.
The girl sticks out. So.
Okay, that's enough of that one.
My experience is a lot of judges don't like infrared.
Yeah, they're lost. Okay. Ready to move on, Bruce?
Yep.
Thank you.
And this is Color Temperature You Can Feel by Don Stevens.
Okay, that's a water lily. And I was just actually blown away by the colors, the warmth of the yellow and the coolness of the blue at the same time in the same flower at the same place. Blue and yellow are opposites on the color scale, and anytime they're together makes for kind of an interesting thing.
Yes, it does.
And the green also plays a good role there.
Yes, it does. It's beautiful.
The green at the bottom looks very nice.
The yellow and gold actually kind of makes it like glows.
It does. One picky thing, Don, I would take with that little blue dot up top at noon. Just blemish that out. See that?
Yeah, that's
an annoyance.
the fronds or leaves of the water lilies swirl together and make this sort of triangular thing sticking up above the water. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I should tone that down. That green dot is distracting.
It is.
Well,
So, Don, did you Photoshop the colors on this?
No, I did not.
Because to me, it looks like it's been Photoshopped because of the green. It's the green. It's like,
yeah.
it looks
Unreal.
grainy or something. It doesn't look real. All the green looks like it's been.
Looks like an oil slick, but
White.
that's
What
a
it
real
looks like.
white leaf.
But I like the
Oh, it
contrast.
doesn't look like an oil slick.
That's just what the water lily green leaves look like.
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
Did you guys see the image sharp? I don't see it very sharp.
That's a good criticism. It's not totally sharp.
Mhm.
And maybe it doesn't need to be, though. There's
Doesn't have
something
to be.
nice about its softness.
Right.
There's a lesson there. One of the things you can do with a digital camera is put it on multiple exposures, not bracketed, just multiple exposures. Hold the button down for a second and shoot 3 or 4 pictures. And that will probably let one of them be sharper than the others.
Oh, no doubt.
So with the next shot, we ready for the next one?
Okay. Thank you, Don. Very nice.
This is Billy. Hi, Billy, by Vivian Stevens. So, Vivian, you want to tell us about your model here?
Well, this was a trip to Cooper's Farm in Calhoun. There were a few of us that went there, and this was our Friday morning group that went out there. And I saw this goat, and his hair was so different from most other ghosts that I had seen, and he just looked at me, and I thought, I like that. That's it. I just shot him. I shot him several times. Yeah.
Nice texture.
It's very nice.
Yeah, really good texture. That's true.
I think his eye is interesting. You know, cat's eyes are vertical,
Pupil.
whatever you call them. They're not circular. Well, goat's
Pupil.
eyes are horizontal. Goat's eyes, the pupil is horizontal and rectangular.
I love his goatee.
I wonder if the picture will look better from a lower angle.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I would go a little lower.
Yeah. Well, he was
Upper part
standing
of the
right next to the
fence is
fence, and there's not much you could do about that but wait and get him to move somewhere else.
Yeah.
But shooting lower would probably be a good idea.
You were lucky he was that still, it looks like, because you got it really sharp.
Yeah, I agree. If you got the tip, if you work from the upper right with that horn and down to the lips, or maybe the goatee, and just crop it that way, and then get rid of the wire, Photoshop out the wire stuff, which shouldn't really be that hard. I think so too. I agree.
Could you just darken that top bar? If you could darken that to just be a dark brown bar up there,
Well, there's a Photoshop tool that will let you remove things like that wire grid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that shouldn't be that hard. It really
It's not that hard to do.
shouldn't be hard.
I think Helene's thought about the darkening that pipe on top, though, is also a good one. That might be easier if you don't want to mess with it too much, because that is a little distracting up there, but you could darken that.
Yeah.
Easier.
Do y'all remember Jeffrey Stoner's goats? From that, goats make great subjects. He had a series of portraits. Everybody remember that?
Yep.
Oh,
Jeff Stoner, yeah. He's judged us a couple of times and gave a presentation back before COVID. But he did these wild goats, and they make. I mean, it was portraits. That's all I can say. It's portraits, except it was goats instead of people. They were just absolutely fascinating. I love those photos. Goats are great to shoot. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Vivian. Thank you. This is mine again. This is weird. This is my attempt of abstraction. I call it "It's Locked." I'm playing with trying to make it look like turning that doorknob, and I had a lot of tricks to try to give that movement. But I'd be interested in any suggestions. I got lots of different ways of trying to do that. But that's the point of this. It's like it's locked. It's just the tension that goes with that.
I think the geometry in that picture is wonderful.
I think the blur on the knob is good. I like it.
Okay. Okay.
So when I first saw this picture, I don't think I saw the
knob.
I'm sorry. A couple of people were talking. I didn't.
Go ahead.
Should one try to sharpen the knob?
Well, it's moving
out from the rest of the picture.
Yeah, the doorknob is moving. Now, the question I had, I don't remember. I did this two ways. One, I did turn the doorknob and sort of move the door. Another one, I just rotated the lens. I think this is a rotated the lens picture. I'm not sure. And if I rotate the lens, everything would just be Bob D. Sharp recept. Everything gets out of, focus. I can't remember which way I did this one.
So Elsie, when I opened this folder, this image, somehow I don't think I saw the whole door. I don't, maybe
is that right?
Maybe I had it on magnification or something. I didn't realize it. And so my comment pertains to that, which I said you could make it a square photo. And
I couldn't. And I did it.
Put the so that you just have the doorknob and put it in like the upper third golden whatchamacallit.
Yes, I got it.
And black and white. And you might have another interesting kind of perspective on it. Just another way to use your shot. I don't know if you'd like that or not, but again,
there's a lot resting on where I put that doorknob, and I have been playing around with that composition.
Just this is Paibun. Just a thought. What would happen if just playing around? If you change the color of gold into red and play with a different tone of red and orange. Yes. I don't know gonna make any difference, but
yes, one could do things like that too. Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. Right. Yep. Yeah.
What would happen if you just turned it 90 degrees to the left, so that the darker bar would be at the bottom?
On the doorknob, turn the doorknob to the left, or
no, the whole picture, the whole photograph, the whole photograph.
Rotate it 90 degrees.
I don't know if you know what it was then.
Well, I don't know that you need to know what it is. It's a beautiful abstract.
Okay. I'll try it. I'll flip it.
Fun you can have with it, actually.
I'll play with it some more. Thank you so much.
Reimagine your doorknob.
Radio blur might be useful for something to play with too. Couple different types of that you can apply just to the doorknob.
Yes, that's the filter, right?
Yeah, it's filter. Yeah,
shoot sharp and apply radio blur.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if you wanted to,
you got that shadow too.
Like if you made a duplicate layer, then you could erase you could the rest of the door wouldn't have to be blurred, even with a single image.
Does the feeling of tension come through? I guess not. I'm hearing crickets. All right, we'll move on. Thank you all for your comments.
Okay.
Okay.
Safety by Daryl Neal.
That's a neat picture.
Yeah, so I put this in a competition recently. The title of it is Safety, yes. And the judge sort of liked it, but not much. And so I purposely pick images for these critiques that either I think have a problem or somebody else thinks has a problem. So let her rip.
Well, I really like this image. On the other hand, I think that maybe needs to be a little adjusting of the black and white, which I am not expert on, but almost a little more sharpness or something. But what I also And then I also thought, Daryl, that you could do maybe a slight crop with a bit off the top and a little bit more off the left.
I think this picture is absolutely perfect. I feel so I feel so uneasy looking at this picture. I'm right there. I feel like this poor girl is going to get killed by this tree, suffocated by this tree, and I'm right there to see that. So I love this picture.
I'm wondering if Enrique has a comment on this, because this is somewhat like some of the tricks that he showed us in his presentation.
No, I don't have any comments on it.
It's supposed to be a little upsetting.
It is.
It's a lot upsetting.
I think I agree with Mike. It's just more clarity, a little more. And if you use Lightroom, I just found out there's a filter called Pop or something that might make it.
The conversion software is Nick Silver Effects.
Okay.
Generally rated #1 in the world.
It is highly rated.
I can do all kinds of turning of knobs with that stuff.
You might want to. I would like a little bit more room at the bottom. A little. The feet are just a little bit close. I think you could extend that without any trouble.
There is a way of faking it with Photoshop.
Sure.
I guess that was that related to my suggestion to crop it, which does give you a little bit more of a sense of completeness, where the girl is more prominent a little bit. You get a little more focus on.
You know what? I think that imperfection kind of adds to the charm of the picture. I really do.
And I think you get the same thing in terms of what people are suggesting about cropping the top, by just adding some darkness on the top half of that upper right quadrant. Just darken it up, because my eye just keeps going to that light.
That's true.
Light up there. I mean, again, I don't focus on her, and you might.
Did I brighten her?
You might. I would consider that. Yes.
But I think darkening the upper right is good. And you can't crop it. I don't agree with cropping, because you'd cut off that root at the top.
No, don't cut off the root. You don't
don't
crop
cut
it
off.
that much.
Off
and then on the left, crop it a little bit more. So you don't have quite as much dirt, but you still leave the root.
The other thing you might want to look at, getting back to Nick filters, is something like Grandma's Attic. And think of the other one, like Sunday Morning, I think, which would
do that with the color before you do the conversion.
Well, actually, you could do it either way. It doesn't really matter. But it would put a mood on it, if that's what you intend to get. So, what was your intention on this? Was it to make it threatening, or to make it actually safe?
To make the viewer say, "What's going on? Is she hiding? Is somebody after her?"
You could have that interpretation, or you could have.
So what was?
Threatened,
but Daryl, what was your intention?
What I just said.
I think that's
say?
no comment then.
And I think that's legitimate. You know, basically, where your intention is to ask a question and not to answer it. You know.
What did the judge say, Daryl? What did the judge say?
I think it had to do with cropping or something like that. Didn't like
you know what? I think I think that's a gallery piece, regardless of what that judge said.
Yeah,
I really do.
Daryl, if you darken down that very light, very light tree in the middle, I think that then your eyes go down to the little girl's face much more quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to me, she looks like she feels safe. I mean, the expression on her face to me looks like she feels safe under there. So, but if you darken down that very light tree in the middle, I think that would help.
Yep, I agree.
Daryl, one more thing. If you're using Nick, a couple things. One is go to the structure, add a little structure. And number two, toward the bottom there, they have that where you darken the edges. Darken that top edge and the left edge a little bit, you know, even a little more, you know, mostly. And I think that's what I would do with using the soft darkening.
Okay, thanks. I think we need to move along.
Yep,
Right,
thank
let's
you.
go to the next shot.
Very nice. Yeah.
Now in Lisbon with a man barber pole.
All right, this is
barber pole.
This is a composite. I was recently on a trip to Portugal, and this was a very bland picture of one of their beautiful alleyways, and you know, and I saw, you know, and it was very bland, and I saw this man, older man, and he was carrying a cane of some sort. And I took his picture, and then there was a barbershop pole. And the first thing I did was I said, okay, let's take this, let's do something that never happens in Portugal and make it snow. So I went to one of the Photoshop neural filters, and they have an option that lets you make seasons out of where you are. So I made it snow, and then I needed to make a reflection. The snow had to be, melting. So I had to I wanted to make the reflection of the water. So I made the reflection of the water, and I placed barbershop pole. So it's kind of silly, but the guy was walking to get a haircut and a shave. That's all. And that's the story. Other than the fact that it was snowy and it was miserable, and the guy had to walk through water, slushy water.
Yeah. I don't know, back to the origin of it, that I would walk down that alley. It looks like something might fall on me.
Well, it was, originally it was very beautiful.
Michael, the only, the barber pole, I did not notice the barber pole until I read the title.
Yeah, same here.
It did not pop out to be something, until I saw it in the title. So maybe accentuate that somehow. I mean,
well, you know what? There's that glow inside.
Yeah.
There's a little glow inside, and I was thinking about accentuating that somehow.
Well, why not darken the tree that it's sitting on, and also those white planks, whatever it is, in front of the man, that maybe steps, I don't know, but darken those two things down, and then you do notice the man and the barber pole, the barber signia much more, whereas the white in the pole that it's sitting on and that white in front of the man's feet are where my eyes go first.
Yeah.
You know what? That was one of my thoughts too. It looks like a little pasted on. maybe maybe I can do that, or I could actually replace him, because the guy did have reasonable. I mean, the guy did have reasonable exposure when I shot it. I'm not exactly sure what made it so dark, in the photoshopping, but you're right, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Well, the matter of fact is, I did get a haircut at the barber shop that had that pole, and it was probably the best haircut that I've had in 20 years.
I was thinking the same thing as Mike. Even though I'm a person who always likes to put people in pictures, I'm wondering if you take that guy out completely, and you might have an interesting picture and accentuate that barber pole.
You know what? That's an interesting thought. That's a very interesting thought.
There's another image also in this, possibly, if you kind of crop down to get the white sky out, you then are focused down that alley, and the whole picture gets a little bit better dynamic range, I think, because that sky is that top part's very light and draws your eye up there.
I agree. Crop the bottom out. Yeah.
Think we need to go to the next one?
Okay.
Well, thank you all for your thoughts. It was wonderful.
Yeah, very nice.
Subtle Fall Colors by Vivian Stevens.
This was another excursion to North Georgia with the Friday morning group. Was supposed to be shooting fall colors, and on the way, I think this is around Clayton. There's an old mill up there off of I call it 441. I don't know. It's on the way before you get to Dillard, and we stopped, and everybody was walking around, and I saw this vine going up this tree, and I just loved the leaves, and I just shot it, and it would just attracted me, and I really liked it. And Don didn't do anything to it. That's the way the leaves came out.
Yeah, I would kick the saturation up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The colors are there, but they're pretty muted.
The subtleness of the colors that she captured. Mm-hmm. And as I'm looking at this image against this, very white background, I'm thinking that you could frame this very nicely in a simple, darkish frame that maybe had some model of green and, kind of dark model in it. But I could see it making a very nice picture on the wall with a good frame on it.
Yeah. No. I don't touch anything. And sometimes Don's will for me, and other times he doesn't. So anyway, this is what I shot.
I think it's a nice diagonal also.
It is a nice diagonal. That's what I was wondering. I would suggest, I know you don't want to touch anything, but on the left in that upper third where there's, foliage or stuff against that tree, it's distracting. You could darken that down because it's pulling my eye away from the leaves. Or just shadow it, make it darker. Vignette. Yes.
Just put a vignette in there. That'd be fine. I would cut it out.
Mm-hmm. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Next one, Untitled One by Guy Chandler.
Right.
Can you tell us about this guy?
Sure. So definitely I'm a rookie, and definitely you can see that there's no name Untitled, so I didn't do that.
I had to put something in.
Yeah, well, it's okay. It's okay. For next time. So this one and the next one, actually, I can talk about both, is a library in Calgary. And that day they had a photography workshop where they actually shut down the library to allow photographer to come there for 2 hours. So this one, and my goal that day was to capture the wood. The whole building is like an oval, and it's full of just beautiful wood. And this, it's a long exposure. It's basically busy without being busy, without seeing the faces, so little ghosting. So that's pretty much that story on that one.
So people are going up and down the stairs, Guy, and that's why we see those ghostings?
Correct. Yeah, it's a long exposure.
Yeah.
You know what?
The angles, not only of the stairway, but up in the ceiling, they're all pulling you in. The only thing I'm worried about is we've got that blur, and it's a person's blurred. Then there's this person who's sort of sharp. At the top
that
of the
one,
stairs
that guy
on the
was,
right.
he was sitting, actually. You're right. He's not moving.
Yeah, and it kind of, you look at that and you go, what's going on there?
I think the idea of this thing is wonderful. I'm looking at like Marcel Duchamp, with a nude descending a staircase kind of a thing.
Good.
And if you, I guess composed it a little bit differently, or waited for the different person to come down and took your shutter shots just a little bit further apart. And also, she was nude, probably wouldn't hurt.
There was no such person that day.
Okay. If you did that, I think it would be wonderful. It would be a great cubist kind of a photograph.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Guy, did you have any other shots during your session? Or
I'm sorry?
Is this the only one you took like this, or did you have others?
Yeah, this one, Bill, no Photoshop, no nothing. This is just original, pretty much.
No, I meant during your session, you were at a workshop.
Oh, yes, I have some other ones.
Others that we're not seeing here, but are the same type of thing on this.
It says there's another picture. Is it related?
Yeah, there is another picture.
No, it's not the same thing, but it's the same concept of the library in the woods. So we can.
Okay. Yes, I'm not sure it's next. Oh, but it is next.
Ooh.
I really like this one a lot. The only thing I would do is cut that floor off and just make that picture without the floor. I really liked it.
So
it's hard to tell if it's level and as it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just geometry on this one.
Yeah.
That is great.
It's very pretty. It's very impactful.
Yeah, it is very impactful.
Okay.
What building was this in?
It's the Central Library in Calgary, Canada.
Wow.
Yeah. They spent like $35 million, and it's really a beautiful place.
Except it has no books.
There are a lot of books.
Stairwells.
Yeah. I kind of kept them away from that, but there's a lot of books there. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I can guess what a judge is going to say, which is, I don't see a focal point. They're going to come up and say, it's too busy and I don't see a focal point. I mean, I've been hit by judges with that many times.
I don't know that that's important in this shot. I mean, I wish Michelle was here because she could, this is kind of her type of photograph too. She probably
I have the same picture with one person walking on the other side, and I did.
That would help, I think.
Okay. So
I think the composition is fine. But Mike's point about possibly doing something with that middle bright spot, if that's possible, that might be nice too. But I just think it's really great and architecture.
I would agree with Rue on maybe cropping a little off the bottom. That floor doesn't need to be there, I don't think. But it's really nice.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
I have one thought is on the right side itself. resolution is not detailed and sharp enough, and you may crop it on the right side, maybe 1 or 2 inches out. You don't. To me, it's not sharp, and it might as well get out. Crop it out.
I
That's
like
what my
Payboon's idea, not because I think it's so soft, but because there's nothing there. Because the angles change, you can't see through the slats. But if you came over from the right, stopped where you have the last of the book stacks, I think that would be good.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Guy, are you aware that our club has email memberships?
What do you mean by that?
You can compete and enter and participate without ever setting foot in Atlanta.
No, I know. But
He's in Atlanta.
I did see some pictures the last competition. You weren't
He's
there,
not
Don.
in Canada.
Huh?
Don, he's not in Canada.
Oh, yeah, Don. I live here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
He's in Atlanta.
Okay. Any other comments? That was very, very nice. Thank you. I think this is our last picture now.
And this is White Azalea in Vase by Daryl.
Yeah, so I do these sorts of things from time to time, and I'll tell you my own view on this one. I like the balance. I think the 2 little birds on the right help balance the big thing on the left. It is done with focus stacking, which is actually not a very good focus stack, but that's where you can take images of different focal lengths, so you can make it sharp, sharp, sharp all the way into the thing. The main problem I have with it is just kind of there, kind of blah.
I think that's the problem with the subject matter of a still life.
Yep.
And
I
I
like
think it's
still
a
life.
very nice still life. But again, from the standpoint of subject matter, for excitement in photography competitions, I think still lifes are very hard to be catchy. We've had some great ones, and this is.
I've seen some win that I have to be honest. I have to say, huh?
Daryl,
Can't tell.
I think the petals on the right side are too bright.
Well, the light was there.
Well,
the light
you
was
can
coming in.
deal
from
with
the
that.
Daryl, I think the flower arrangement in the vase is beautiful, and I love little ceramic birdies, but they don't go with that beautiful arrangement. Maybe you could use a.
Mike had a smart comment. What was it?
But just use a different other distraction down there where you have the birdies. I love the little birdies, but I don't think they go with the beautiful flower arrangement.
Yeah, it's time to get out your little white rats, Daryl.
Yeah.
Hey, I got somebody who wants to buy that picture.
Yeah, that was a great shot. I mean, that's one of the better shots. I remember the rats and the raspberries, wasn't it?
Jim?
Yeah. Daryl, a couple of thoughts. I would crop out the edge of the table on the bottom.
I agree.
I find that distracting.
It is.
And coming back to Don's comment about the flowers being kind of bright on the right, the one kind of on top right, that one's definitely too bright. If you could somehow...
a bit blown out.
Yeah, it looks blown out. But the, I don't know, pistils or stamens, coming out of that flower look really gorgeous. If you could,
I see them.
Tone that white down to where it's not so distracting, and all those flowers on the right are kind of more balanced. I think it would work really, really well. It's just...
Moi.
Another gift. It's a gift.
Yeah, and a couple of minor things. They're on the table on the very left-hand part. There's kind of a spot there. Maybe it's the glass focusing some light going through there. I would get rid of that. And it looks like some dust or something right in front of that right-hand bird.
There's just something there, yeah. I see.
There's something there. I would get rid of those two things. And
I think it's actually a reflection is what it looks like.
It could be, but it kind of comes across as a spot right in front of that right-hand bird. Yeah.
The right-hand bird goes straight down from the beak.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I see it.
Okay.
I think it's a lovely set piece, and if you like that kind of thing, it's great. If you don't like it, you're not going to like it. But but I would leave the birds in. I like the birds.
Yeah, the tonality of the birds is really good, and
one thing that you might have done attending to detail when you set this up was get some of those wrinkles out of the doily under it.
Yeah, I see it.
The wrinkle under the bird is kind of an unforced error, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
And but it's sweet. I
agree. I think it's a lovely photo, and
It is pretty.
you remove the wrinkle in front of the left-hand bird to make it look flat. And one of the remaining issues is that you've got the basket holding the birds, one on and one off the doily. So if somehow you could.
Oh, but I wanted that.
Oh,
I
you
see
wanted
the
that?
point.
I think that looks all right.
Oh, okay.
So one of the things about the birds is the birds are soft. You've got a really crisp picture of the vase and the flowers, but then you go to the birds because they are made of the composition they are. They're not a sharp thing to look at.
Yeah, I don't think it's a photographic phenomenon. I think it's intrinsic to the birds.
Exactly, and so it seems to me I want to see something sharp there too. But
okay.
Hey, Drew.
I was looking today. I was reading a book, and it's a magazine actually, Artists and Illustrators, and they had oddly enough, I was thinking about your picture when I saw this. They had a painting of a vase with a flower. And, it was just a typical still life, but it was really a very nice one. It was like backlit, kind of. The painter had made it look backlit. So that would be an interesting thing to try, because I think, you got, first of all, I really like the black background, the simplicity of the composition. I really like a lot of that. And I was thinking about that, backlighting a little bit or putting like almost rim light around a floral composition. What would that?
Incidentally, I don't know how to bring it up. I kept thinking some kind of meeting. I have some black material from Japan, which absorbs 96% of light. I mean, we're talking black. And I'm going to break it out on some kind of picture like this. If we ever, Mike said in a message to me, starting to talk about when we would meet in person again. I'm starting to think about April, but I'll be feeling people out about it. Okay. Anyone could bring things along, like this stuff I have that is amazing. It's like a black hole. It just sucks up light.
Yeah. So it'd be good for light painting, right? Then anything in front of it.
Oh, it would. You're right. Except you can't get it in real big pieces. It's not that cheap.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
I don't think the wrinkle in your picture is a problem. I know it might not be a detail that people like, but
it makes
I don't know. I kind of like it.
Real. That's what it does.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, thank you,
keep
Daryl.
forging on.
Real. Remember the frame that Dan have is an oval frame on his infrared photo.
Yeah.
If you use the oval frame, just the flower, a little bit of the vase itself, I think it's very pretty, really.
Do it vertically?
No, oval, O-V-A-L.
Oh, I know, but have it oriented vertically.
No, just the flower.
Oh, just the flower.
Yep.
Oh.
And it's because you have a real nice sharp flowers and pretty. That's all it is. The bird itself is just, I don't know why you have it there. And this is my opinion, just for flowers, and what you take a picture for, and it's really pretty. That's the thought about it.
Yeah. That's an interesting idea.
Everybody.
I'm with Baboon and against and anti some other you folks. I lose the birds.
Lose the birds.
Or replace them with something sharp.
I knew Mike would bring up
Daryl,
Hitchcock.
I mean, I have to have something messy in my photograph. So, see, I would, instead of the birds, I'd have some browning fallen petals, kind of there, just sitting on the table.
Oh, I've done that kind of thing too. And I remember Elsie's picture where the entire
That's right. Yeah.
vegetation was
But I got it. To me, it's
dying.
but that's just me.
Yes. Well, it's past 9:15. I think
Yes,
are we
it
through?
is.
Well, I would just like to show all of you. You see this lightness behind me?
Yep.
You see? That's snow.
Really?
Yes. We're having
Yeah.
probably 2 to 4 inches in that snow. Normally this would be dark and sharp white lights and dark buildings and
I'm still seeing just the flower shot by Daryl. If you have,
oh, you have to look at the gallery.
oh, okay.
It's not
Look
that
at the gallery,
spectacular,
Rachel.
actually, Helene. But
And Rue, you do know that we're like, what, 75
Yes.
degrees today? Okay.
yeah, yes, it's 27 on my Apple Watch right now.
80 in Puerto Rico.
So, what happened with the email? Because I didn't get mine in.
Who didn't get theirs in?
I didn't get mine in. I sent in 2.
Who's talking?
Al.
Al.
Sal talking.
Al,
Yeah.
you
Oh
sent
no,
it to
Al, I
Elsie?
did not get it. I'll check. I'll check again. But I'll send you another opportunity.
Okay, well, it's not important now because
Al,
I'm
did you
seeing
get
them.
the-
But what?
Did you get the revision of the email?
I apparently did not. I may have got. I mean, I saw the email message when I opened up today, but I just sent them in Tuesday. So
Right. It should have.
and,
I would have looked. It might have. There was a mistake in the email address.
Yeah,
So if you didn't get the second email, it may not have gotten lost.
Elsie and I learned about cutting and pasting the hard way.
The hard way.
when was the second email sent?
A couple days ago. It was before you still could submit.
Yeah. But you just might have
was
missed
the
it.
E.
Yeah,
the
I know.
E for Elsie.
Yeah.
That in the first email, it
Right,
wasn't italicized.
Yeah,
Therefore,
okay.
it went out as an incomplete title.
Right.
I found
Yeah,
it when I
right.
submitted my images, and I got a message back that they didn't go.
Yeah.
So then I fixed it the next morning.
Okay.
We'll
Yeah,
make sure
so
we get it
live and
better
learn.
next time.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that, Al, but next month,
Okay.
Mike is going to moderate, so there's another chance there.
Okay.
Hey,
Thank
this
you.
is Melvina. Is there something I need to do to make sure that I get the group emails? Because I only
Oh,
got
yeah,
the
it's
email
real
notification
easy.
from Daryl.
There is a master. There are multiple master lists of the membership. That's the core problem. When I utilize MailChimp to send out things, you're not on it because you're a new member. So you've got to be put into that, and you're not the only one. So that is why I sent you a personal email with the link to this meeting. Because I'm trying to consolidate these membership lists, some of which include people who are dead.
Oh.
So we'll get it all straightened out. Yep,
Okay.
Mike and I are going to compare lists.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just to let you know, I'm not dead yet.
Okay. Good. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Hey, also, you have two different families of mailing lists. You have the Atlanta Photo Society list, and then you have the meetup list, and they're totally different lists. When you get the email from Meetup, it says we have 800 members or some foolish thing. Well, we don't.
Ask Jim Harrison, the Meetup expert. And so we invite people, lots of folks.
All right,
Maybe
folks,
people here tonight who came in via Meetup.
Yeah.
See you, folks.
Okay, good night. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ruth.
Thanks, everybody.
Good program tonight. Thank you,
Go
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Drew, show your snow one more time.
Oh, there it is.
Good night.
I'm not seeing
Take
you.
care.
I'm seeing Mike.
Bye.